Question, tell me what you think about me. I buy my own diamonds and I buy my own rings. Only ring your celly when I'm feeling.
Hi guys and welcome. I am your host Joanna Recinos with the Realty Talk, and I am excited to be here today. I have a special guest joining us. This person is my first live guest, so I'm super excited to introduce her. She is a senior loan officer with Movement Mortgage. She has been in the industry for over 20 years and has a vast majority of experience. I have personally worked with her hand in hand. Thus, I am grateful to introduce her and welcome her to being here today, Ms. Carol Escobar.
Thank you. I'm also very excited to be here with you.
Thank you. Well, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the mortgage industry.
You know, I had always been in sales. I was in sales since I was 19. I worked at a car dealership. And I met a pretty interesting guy, Frank Rodriguez, which is also your broker, right?
Yes.
And he told me that I would be really good at doing home loans. And I decided to, start learning how to refinance. That was kind of my first type of home loan that I understood. And after that, I just really liked the finance part of it and continued into it. And I really learned a lot with Frank at Elite Financial at that time.
Awesome. And 20 years into it, here you are. And it's funny how you and I met. We were actually working for the same office. As many of you know, I was also in the mortgage industry several years back. I stepped away and got into the real estate arena of it, but it all goes hand in hand. And having a trusted loan officer like Carol, someone who's been in the trenches for years, has the experience and is well versed with what's going on in today's economy when it comes to the home buying process and mortgage rates and so forth. So I felt she was the ideal person to have here today. And let's talk about currently, what are the current misconceptions that most buyers have when they come to you to apply for a mortgage loan?
There's definitely quite a few. They come in with different ideas that they can't qualify or can qualify, so they'll come in with ideas that their credit is not good enough,
okay,
or that they have this IRS debt and it's just I'm gonna wait till I pay it off, or these school loans that I can't, I'm gonna keep owing on them, so I'm just gonna keep paying and I'm gonna qualify after I pay them off, kind of thing.
Okay.
So that's a big misconception, that you can you cannot qualify with those types of things, or that you need perfect credit, that I need to have that 700 FICO and that's the only way. So as soon as I get there, I'm working on it, Carol. That's kind of the conversation. The other thing would be I need 20% down. I need a big money down, and I know that that's what you need. So I'm working on saving and all of those things. You'd be surprised. There's just a lot of different things that you can do that will help you get qualified with not perfect credit and not 20% down. I mean, you can go as little as 3% down or 5% down. There's down payment assistance programs that'll help you do 0 down. So we try to clarify all those things and share that with everybody so that they will come forward and, get pre-approved.
That's excellent. So in today's market, obviously with the market with inventory being so limited and there being so much competition out there and the demand being extremely high, what are you seeing right now is the biggest hurdle that buyers are having to overcome?
I think really kind of understanding the market. You and I have had these conversations with a lot of our buyers, and where we got to educate them of the climate of what should you do when you're out there. And it seems to be a seller's market. It's, we know that. And so a lot of the times they're offering or putting these properties on the market for really undervalue. And, they'll come in and ask to place an offer under that or not a very competitive offer. So that's where you and I both come in and kind of share with them. I really don't share too much, but I do want them to know that not their agent isn't the only one having this conversation.
Right.
So coming in and knowing the market a little bit, One thing that you and I do with our buyers is we pre-underwrite them. So they get a fully underwritten pre-approval letter. So it's not just something that I looked at, which that worked really well in the past few years because I know what gets approved and what doesn't. I know the
Right.
guidelines. I know what to put together. That's what a loan officer is. A loan officer will put together your loan in a way where it fits the guidelines so that when the underwriter gets it in their lap, it checks all the boxes. But now you got to take it up a notch. You got to take it up and be the best package you can be. And so the best package would be for you to get fully underwritten, get a full verification of employment, verify everything, assets, income, credit, and deposit that loan into an underwriter's lap and have her give it the once over, the approved, and get you a letter from her approval stance, versus just my letter. And I don't say that lightly because I know my team and I are pretty thorough.
And you guys are, and I have to add to that since we work together a lot. There's been times where I'm kind of like, gosh, well, I get a little impatient myself, but reality is they're dotting their I's, crossing their T's. And in today's market, it is so important to make sure that you are working with the loan officer that is doing due diligence on your file when it comes to analyzing your financials, your credit, to making sure that you are ready to compete in today's market. So with that being said, I do agree with Carol as far as the due diligence that she and her team bring to the table.
Yeah, we definitely want to do that and make sure that we don't leave you out there hanging. We protect the client's investment, their earnest money deposit. We take that very, very seriously. So I do all my homework up front, and sometimes that could be a little, I wouldn't say annoying, but it is like a process that may take time. And I do ask my realtors to be patient because it's only going to make them, have the ability. That's another thing that you need to do in this market is shorten your contingencies. A contingency is basically you're promising on a contract that you're going to do a couple of things within a certain period of time. And a lot of times they want you to do it in less than 17 days.
Right.
And most people want us to do it in 10 to 12 days. So
especially in this market, but it's important that our community is aware that by doing so, shortening or removing your contingencies in this market, you are jeopardizing your good faith deposit, which is something that you have to put into escrow when your offer is accepted on any given property. So with that being said, yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, so you have to make these offers look a specific way. So that you'll be considered, so that you'll get a counter, or so that you'll get accepted. So we're very aware of that because we're in that market. So we try to share that with all the buyers so that they know the process. It's a completely different conversation now than it's been in the past 5 years.
Right.
Most recently in the last couple of years, it's changed into that market. So we have to adjust and have these conversations with our buyers so that they're very aware of what they're about to, go out there and see or endure.
Right.
So
now, what would you say, because I know we get this a lot when it comes to a buyer that says, oh, I want to buy a home and I'm looking at homes of, 700,000. What would you say to a buyer that just is looking at what's in the inventory and they're saying, oh, I can buy a house based on this price? Like, what's your advice for them without them knowing the logistics behind it?
I would definitely say to them that most houses, you're going to look at them and you're going to like them or want them, right? But at the end of the day, one of the most important parts is the numbers attached to the property and how it fits with your criteria. Like, what do you bring to the table? Who's going to be on the loan?
Right.
What type
Your
of loan are you going to
finances.
get?
And what can you afford ultimately?
Exactly. What are you willing to pay? If a client comes to me and asks me what's the payment on something like that, which is usually what they come with, I do a little simple formula for them. I tell them I'll take the first number of the purchase price, multiply it by 7, and add 2 zeros. And that's a general idea with low money down, how much that payment's going to be. So if you're coming at me with a $700,000 purchase price, are you open to a $4,900, $5,000 monthly payment for that? Unless you have bigger money down, right?
Right.
So just to kind of give you a range of where you would land if you're borrowing that much money. So, you really want to understand the numbers. I feel like for me, if I was going to buy a house, I would only want to go out there and look at what I'm approved, because that's another thing that I've seen happen is you'll go out and you'll look at properties and then you find out what you're approved. And if it's a little bit less or just not in the price range you were looking at, it could be a little bit disheartening,
Of
could be a
course.
little bit disappointing. So you don't want your process to go that way. So your mortgage professional and your realtor professional are going to say, like, get pre-approved first,
Of course.
get your pre-approval letter, and know all your numbers. Like, I want to be able to walk up to a house and kind of generally say, this is how much my payment's going to be generally, and this is how much money I'm going to need out of pocket. And I know where I'm going to get that. I'm thinking my 401k, I'm going to take a little bit from here. I'm going to get a gift from my mom. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Whatever it is, I already kind of have it planned. And so if Joanna was to say, okay, we're going to place an offer, are you going to sign on the dotted line? You're ready? I'm ready. I know it. And I really like this house. And let's hurry up, because guess what? Most places are selling very quickly.
Exactly.
And so you don't want to be running around last minute looking for your documents, because that's also one thing is not everybody has their documents in the right place. So,
Yes.
they're like, I got to call my tax preparer. I got to look for a W-2. I think I lost this one. And you don't want that instance on a property that's like, happens to say, hey, we're reviewing offers on Monday by 3 p.m. and your documents are not in.
Especially in today's market, homes are flying off the shelf, literally flying off the shelf.
I agree.
It's so important that you're prepared. And if you are working with a realtor right now that's taking you out looking at properties and you are not financially prepared in the sense of that you've met with the loan officer and they've reviewed your financials, stop right now. Change that realtor or go get financing, because in today's market, without that, you're not going to win. Your choices are very limited.
I agree. And it's a tough conversation. I think people have a different misconception, because I think in the past, the way that they've bought something has probably been a different way. They go out and look for it first and negotiate it. And then they figure out how they're going to either buy it or finance it, put it on a credit card, or they go and look at the car and they test drive it. And then they feel like, I could really go for this. And for this, I actually would spend this.
Of course.
Or I would empty out this account and buy that or put that down. But it's totally different in the house aspect,
Very different.
Worked in the car industry, and that's how it is. You walk into the lot, you pick a car, you test drive it, you feel like I could do this. And then they take you to the back and have you talk to a financial, advisor or a financier. And then they put the numbers out and you got to decide whether or not it's a go.
Right. If it makes sense.
Totally the opposite in the, in buying a home and looking for property and investing. So it's probably one of the biggest investments. So knowing the numbers is the most important part. Feeling comfortable with those numbers. Another thing that we talk about is getting creative. The market and where we're at in California. I mean, it's an expensive market. It's very inflated in every aspect. So when you're buying property and you're trying to keep your payment down, I mean, there's a lot of things that Los Angeles or even California has implemented where they're allowing you to convert garages legally and make them an accessory dwelling unit, or even add an accessory dwelling unit in the backyard, as long as you have the right, square footage or the right, lot size. So if you're able to do that and you can think outside the box, those are things that in conversations that are very important right now.
Yeah, creativity, seeing beyond the imagination. Oftentimes I walk in with clients and they're looking for the perfect home. And realistically, your first home is not going to be the perfect home. But if you can see the potential or envision what you can potentially do, then that's already a win. So those are important factors to keep in mind in this, in this competitive market. So if I can ask you, Carol, what's your opinion right now as far as mortgage rates and where they're going and how that's going to impact the buying power?
In the last few months, we've had big increases in rates from where we were at.
Yeah.
So although rates are not as low as they were pandemic, around the pandemic, rates were in the twos, in the low to mid twos.
Phenomenal rates.
Right? Rates have increased. But you and I have been in a market where rates have 2 digits.
Yes, I know.
So we know that, rates even now are still really good rates. They're still a great rate to borrow money at, to invest, to own a home, to stop paying rent. Because what did we say a few minutes ago? Joanna and I were talking in the back, and we said, if you're
Right.
renting, what's the interest rate of your renting? It's 100%,
Right.
100 plus, because you're not creating equity, you're not appreciating. And, you know,
And you don't have the write-off benefits also.
100% tax write-offs.
Of course.
You know, I don't want to call my landlord and ask him if I can do something. Can I have a party?
Right.
Can I park my car here? Can I change this? Can I paint? That's going to be something you can totally do on your own. And like I said, that creativity factor and thinking outside the box and being able to go into a home and maybe just like know that the kitchen isn't exactly what you would want, but that's something that you can fix.
Right.
You know, you
Modify
can do
over time.
Make it yours.
Exactly.
You know, make it what you would want to see, and slowly do that. And just to get your foot in the door and become that owner and start building the ability to have generational wealth.
Right. And speaking as a homeowner, touching on what you're saying right now, is that owning a home it's a never ending project, because as time goes by, you know, you have to keep up with the maintenance of your home, and maybe a new design comes out and you ultimately want to change it. So, you know, it's an ongoing basis when it comes to being a homeowner, that you're continuously going to invest in your asset. And obviously the biggest benefit is that you can modify it to your liking. So it's very important to keep that aspect in mind when it comes to purchasing a home.
Absolutely.
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Give yourself that opportunity to look at it a different way, have a different perspective, and be creative. You know, definitely taking the advice of your real estate agent and kind of like the cues and the things that they have seen in the past and people have done and been successful with. They've been in the market for quite some time. You've been in the business just as long. So I know that you've seen that turn. And like I said, with mortgage rates, they could possibly continue going up. You know, nobody has the crystal ball.
Nobody.
Yeah.
None of us can predict.
You
what's
can try to
gonna
predict
happen
the
in
day
future.
because based off of what's going on in the market, you know, a lot of people try to predict where it's going, and it's going up, it's going to increase today, lock in before, and they could adjust tomorrow again. So we can't really predict what's going to happen in the future. You might be able to predict what's going to happen for the day, but who knows what will happen tomorrow. The goal is to buy a property that you can afford the payment and that you feel that you could live in there, and just buy and hold.
Yeah, it's the best thing. And over time, I mean, history, numbers don't lie. Real estate is the best appreciating asset you can ever have. So whether it be you buy it now or you buy it later, in the long run, you know, like I said, the benefit is tremendous above all.
Agreed.
Yeah. So if you can share with us a little bit also, because I think it's very important for a potential home buyer to know what really goes on behind the scenes when you're applying for a mortgage. Because I think, you know, people feel once I have my approval, I'm good to go. We open up escrow, it's a slam dunk. But reality, we both know
There's a lot.
There's a lot. It
Yeah.
doesn't work that way. So if you can shine on that a little bit, just so we can educate people.
100%. So I really like this question because I have to deal with this on a daily basis. So like if you're a W-2 employee, you work for a company and you're a salary employee, then my job is pretty simple. I'm basically taking what you're making and I'm analyzing it. And most banks want to lend you half of what you're making gross.
Okay.
For the monthly payment of the house, more or less, right?
Right.
I want to continue looking at that and make sure that your income is increasing or not declining. That's really one of the most important things that a bank looks at. They want to know that you've been at an employer or that you've worked for yourself for 24 months. So you don't necessarily have to be at the same company for 2 years straight. I have people who will come to me and say the same thing, like, oh, I haven't been at my company for 2 years yet, so I don't think I'm ready. And that's not it. I just want to know that you've been working. We want to see a trend of what type of income you've been making. So that's really what the bank is looking for. You could work at CVS and then go work for a company and do customer service. But as long as you're increasing an income or you have a steady income,
Right.
then that's what the bank is looking to award you for you to qualify.
Of course.
Right.
How about gaps in employment?
You can have a gap. You know, people understand that there's transitions, there's moves, there's maternity. Maternity is not looked upon as a bad thing. It's almost excluded, like that period of time didn't exist and you're just starting from today. Okay, great. I have moms who have been out of work for a year because they decided to make sure that not just a few months, but I want to make sure that my baby is 100% good. And now I feel comfortable going back to work. That's okay. As long as I have a previous 2 years of or history during that period of time, you can pretty much get a loan the following month, after being out. So gaps are okay. They just don't want to see that you just decided not to work.
Makes sense.
That's really all that they want, because what they're looking for again is a trend. Does Joanna make, XYZ dollars almost every year and it's increasing, or she just dropped off and went from 70,000 to 30,000 all of a sudden? So those are the kind of things that the bank is looking for, because they want to make sure that what you're able to pay is sustainable.
Right. And at the end of the day, no one wants to loan you thousands of dollars and
not know where the money's going to come from.
Not know where the money's going to come from to
For the
make
payment.
that payment. So it's very important to be realistic and open-minded about this particular concept that we're talking about.
Exactly. There's other employees, work for a company and they make commissions or they make overtime or bonuses. So I want to award you that. Trust me, that's like the best way for me to get you qualified for the most or the best loan, right? But the bank also wants to make sure that if you're earning commissions, that you have a pretty steady year, that you didn't have a bang up job last year where you got one big contract and it was the majority of your commissions, and then this year there's no commissions or maybe one or two commissions and it doesn't even equate to the previous year. They want to see that it's incrementing, doesn't need to increment by a lot, but that it's a nice little steady flow of income, because commissions is not a for sure thing, right? Commission is based off of a sale. So they want to know that you're constantly doing those daily activities to get and earn those commissions. Same thing with overtime. Most people are working 32 to 40 hours a week and then they do an extra few hours. Some people do a lot of overtime. It's a majority of their income, who knows? We also want to see that overtime is available to you. So that's crucial. That is that money going to be available? What if that overtime drops and it completely doesn't exist anymore? We just lent, you money on that overtime. And what if you can't afford that payment because of that? So that's something that they look at. Bonuses, sometimes they're only paid if the company does a specific type of fiscal year or a specific time of quarter that they made enough money to give you the bonus. That's also looked upon. Did they earn a bonus? Is it increasing? Is it consistent? That's how they look at bonus, so those are the different types of pays that we look at and we analyze them. And that's why I have to ask for, can I verify employment? Can they write this down? Can they break down what you made the previous years? A lot of the times I'll ask clients that I know do overtime when I have, an interview call with them, if they can maybe print out their pay stubs for the end of the year for previous years. A lot of times people have like ADP or the employer has a great website that holds all their pay stubs for many years. If you can go back there and get me the December pay stubs, then we'll break down that income quickly. We'll get you your pre-approval and you'll know exactly how much you qualify for. You have people who are self-employed and they're, or own a corporation. So in those aspects, we have to look at their taxes and break it down, find out what they kept, in other words, or what they reported after the deductions. So we look at all those types of incomes. And nowadays, there's definitely like 10% down bank statement programs. You can do, don't show me the taxes, show me just the bank statements for the business. I'll take an average of what you're depositing every month for the last 12 months, and that'll be what your income is. And that could be a really great opportunity. You could do that with as little as 10% down nowadays.
That's awesome.
So that's what we look at when it comes to the income portion. And we really do dig deep because that's what the underwriter is going to do. So I'm going to do the job that she does, just do it kind of pre-hand. She, double takes and looks at it and makes sure. And that's how an approval is issued. You also do need qualifying credit scores. You could do a first-time buyer program with as little as a 580 credit score. That's a pretty, kind of a low score, right? But I would definitely prefer for my buyers, and I do prep them and try to get them better scores and tell them what to do. I give them a couple quick tips that make a huge difference, and they could potentially get into the 600s. I really prefer a 620, 640 credit score. That's going to get you a much better deal,
So 640 and above score basically puts you in
A better category.
Okay. And that better category meaning that you
The
get
rate is
the
better.
better rate, right?
Right. Absolutely. You can have a bankruptcy for certain types of loans. You know, bankruptcy doesn't necessarily mean that you're completely like, oh, I have a bankruptcy, Carol, I can't buy. That's not the case. There's different loans that you can use that will allow after you've already discharged. There's some that will do it with 24 months of after the discharge. There's some that will allow you to be within that for Chapter 13, be within the bankruptcy, get permission and still do a transaction. Some do require 4 years from the bankruptcy.
Okay.
So all of those different things we'll look at on credit. You can have a collection. You know, medical, we don't even care about. We don't look at it. We don't care for it. Doesn't matter to us. Doesn't really affect me. So medical collections is not a problem. If you've had like some other type of collection, and it's like bad credit, a lot of times they're like, I have this, I have that, and I run their credit and I'm like, yeah, it's on there, but it's not impeding you from buying. So getting a look at your credit, a lot of the things that people think is like, well, if I run it, I know my points are going to go down.
Right. Yes.
Right?
That's how, yes, exactly. We get that all the time when I tell clients, you know, have you spoken with a loan officer? You know, they want to review your financials, run your credit. And that is the first thing that comes up. Like,
Right.
oh, but my credit score is going to go up.
So
Go down. I'm sorry.
Right, down, exactly. So like an inquiry is going to cause me to lose 20, 30 points and I don't want that. And the truth is that you should be checking your credit. You should know what's on your credit. And a lot of the times they'll tell me, well, I pay for Credit Karma, or I got my, what is it? My Discover card, and they have like the score on there. Or I have,
but that's just one score, right?
That's one score, one. Two, it's a different model. So the credit score that you're seeing there may not exactly be the credit score that you would get at a car dealer or a mortgage company. Those are two different types of scores. Credit Karma is not accurate. It's usually less when I run it based off of their Credit Karma score. So a mortgage and car credit is a completely different
And when you
score.
run it, just to clarify, you're running it looking at the 3 bureaus, right? The 3 credit
TransUnion,
bureaus.
Experian, Equifax. And we take the middle of all 3 scores.
Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, credit wise, like I said, you don't need the perfect credit. If you do have a tax lien, that could be an issue, you know.
Child support?
Child support is not an issue. It's just letting us know that you have it.
Okay.
So we do need your child support documentation. And as long as you're making your payments or working on getting those payments back up, then you can use, you know, that payment as a part of your debt to qualify still. So like, let's say you have a $300 child support payment. It's almost kind of like a car, you know, that's your car if per se, you know.
Got it.
So you'll still qualify with it, and you do have to provide documentation that shows that that's all you pay, right? That the agreement that shows on your credit report is what in fact is on the court documentation, but you still can buy. So
Good. Excellent.
it's not as stringent as people think, and again, you don't need that perfect credit score to buy.
And I think that's the biggest misconception that everybody feels.
Right.
You need to have so much money set aside to buy for a down payment, and your credit score needs to be this. So, you know, you're touching on some very basic needs that are necessary to get started. And the best part of all is that when talking to you, it's not just come to me and we're ready to apply for a mortgage. The benefit with talking to a loan officer or someone like Carol is that they're going to guide you through the process. And if you're not ready now, you know, they'll definitely educate you and tell you what steps you need to take to get there. And I think working hand in hand as a team, which is what we do often, has been one of the biggest assets that we provide for our clients.
Right.
But above all, just knowing that there's options out there. You know, everything is not as hard as it seems. It's just being prepared, of course.
Yeah, being willing, you know, having the willingness to work on certain things, and credit is one of them. Not everybody has the perfect score. Sometimes it does take a little bit of work. But I will advise, like if I see somebody who's on the cusp of being like a 680 credit score, and I feel like we can go from an FHA loan to a conventional loan, then I will definitely tell them what they can do. There's a couple things that I always tell them. Getting at an authorized user, like getting, let's say, for example, that my credit was just on the cusp, but Joanna happens to have like a good credit card. She trusts me. We're buying, and she adds me to her account. Then I can take advantage of what good credit history you have on that account, and it'll kind of piggyback to my report and give me a few points. And that could just be the difference from me being a 679 to a 680. And that is huge for mortgage insurance, for the best rate, for the best program. So that's one little, thing that I have clients do. And I do ask for them to commit with it since we're in transaction or we're working on getting, in a property. The other thing I'll ask them to do is to open up a secure credit card. And so I'm giving you some of the tricks of the trade here because I don't always, give this out, but doing those two things can boost our score immensely. I mean, it can make such a huge difference. It's changed what I've been able to offer. I've switched the loan from FHA to conventional. I've changed their rate. I've changed their mortgage insurance. And, you don't want to do too much while you're already approved. You don't want to go out and run your credit so much and go to Macy's and get that perfume 20% off because they offered you the credit card. That's like the worst, right?
Yes.
But those little things that you can do, I'm willing to work with the client and tell them exactly what step. I use a specific, credit union that I know does it a specific way. I'll tell them, go in there and don't wait for the credit card to come to your house. Get the account, get a cash advance so that it records the day of versus waiting 2 weeks for the card to show up to your house. By the next time we run that credit, that account's on your credit, and that, and that credit
Tricks
score will be
trade.
up. Yeah. So there's things that you can do to work on the credit. So that's for sure. Awesome. So that's another thing we look at. How much you're paying per month we look at. So if you're got that really expensive car, I just had a client who went out and bought a $1,200 monthly payment on a car or a lease. So that changed his approval. He's no longer approved for the same amount. So that's like a no-no.
That's because it takes away from the income they can use to help you apply for that mortgage loan. So think about it. You want to use it for a car that the minute it comes out the parking lot, it depreciates, or do you want to use it for your home, which is a long-term investment? And, over time, it's just going to be a better appreciating asset. Great point.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. I was more worried about the fact that you blew up my loan. No,
hey, wait, and that happens, right?
It happens.
And this is very important because we can be in transaction in escrow, ready to buy a home, and the buyers get excited. They go off and either they go buy
a
furniture,
fridge, a dishwasher,
a car, or I co-sign for tío, tia, grandma, sister, what have you. And when it comes down to the finalizing, the underwriting, verifying the numbers, making sure they dot their I's, cross their T's, is you get the news like, oh, wait, guess what? There's new debt. That changes everything. So make sure that when you're out there purchasing a home, you do nothing.
Right. Banks are very smart. They're lending hundreds of thousands of dollars. They designed a system that tells them all sorts of different things. They call your company where you work at to make sure that you're still employed there the day the loan funds. So
the day the loan funds, guys. This is literally the ticking bomb before closing.
Yeah. Joanna got in a fight with the manager. She got fired and she no longer works here. Like that cannot happen. So we always send out the do's and don'ts. I send out a video. Things you shouldn't do. Don't quit your job. Don't stop doing overtime. Don't change jobs unless you have a conversation. I had one who did that and changed jobs, and he's like, well, who cares, Carol? I'm making more money and I got a better offer. And it's like, yeah, but we're using commission to qualify and we don't know what your commission's going to be here. Right. So that's kind of like, you kind of just changed your loan a little bit. So there's things you just have a conversation, and don't quit your job.
Like you're a financial advisor during the phase of purchasing a home.
Right.
Technically speaking.
Yes. If you feel insecure or not sure about something, just run it past me.
Right.
Let
or
me know.
past me.
Yeah. Joanna's going to call me all like stressed out and like heart in hand.
I will ask the loan officer. That's for sure.
Yeah. Like I always tell them I'm on your side. I'm designing this loan and putting it in box A, B, C, and D in a specific way. So that's presented to the underwriter in such a way that you're approved. I'm on your team, and I'm designing it to make it work for you. So the more honest they are, they'll run credit the day of as well of funding. So like if you thought you were slick and you went out to IKEA or what's the other furniture living spaces and you bought all sorts of stuff, we'll know. It's easy as paying it off will make you qualify again. But the fact that it's happening during, so we do send out a do's and don'ts. We send out a video that says, don't do this, don't do that. Please don't buy, please don't co-sign for anybody. Please don't do this, because the banks are smart and they do know what's going on. And I think people have the perception that they don't even know, well, I'm already approved, who cares?
Right.
It goes through a process.
Yeah, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm very happy we're touching on this, because this is something that's not normally addressed or talked about. It's just, the basics.
It's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable conversation sometimes. As long as it's not happening to me on a loan, I'm okay. But I'll share with you, there's been so many instances where we have talked to them and I have them sign a form that tells me if they're leaving town, are they going to be in vacation during our transaction, all these little things, so that we're not in a situation where we're like, well, I'm leaving to Mexico next weekend. You need me to sign docs? I'm like, yes. Like, where are you going?
And it's not
Why
just
are you leaving?
Escrow documents that need to be signed in front of a notary,
right,
in person. So yeah, there's so much.
There's definitely a dedication you got to give to the process. So we send out that and we tell them what they shouldn't and shouldn't do, and monitoring your credit when it, coming back to my point to that is that monitoring your credit. I actually ran my credit the other day and I saw that there was an account that was not mine and incorrect and definitely not mine. So I called right away and I got that absolved, and I had to, take a couple steps to get rid of it, but that's not mine, so those little things can happen, and them staying on there for periods of time and you not saying anything is a pretty serious situation. So you want to keep that in mind and review it.
So what are the steps you think someone should take, and how often should they be checking their score? Like you mentioned, Credit Karma may not be the best choice. What alternatives?
Well, Credit Karma is good for you to keep an idea of what's going on the credit, because they're definitely going to notify you if you are late on a payment or if there's a new account open or something that you didn't open.
Or something.
Yes. So those things, I'm not knocking them. I don't want to speak badly on them. I just want you to know that they use a different model. That doesn't mean they're wrong. Credit Karma is doing their job and giving you information about your credit, but they're different from the scores and what's identified using the model for purchasing a home and for buying a car. They're two different things.
Okay. So based on your experience, how often can a consumer run their credit without it hindering their score?
I think if you ran it 2 to 3 times a year, you would be fine and you'd get a good grasp of what's going on.
Okay.
I don't think you even need to do it that many times. You could do it twice a year and just kind of double check what's going on. Keeping those accounts like Credit Karma or watching your Experian or Equifax or TransUnion, FICO, you can apply for those online to be given to you on a basis and tells you your accounts and the points you're getting, why something decreased. That's a good thing to do. Monitor your credit. If there's a way for you to find out who ran it or you could lock it, that's great. You should do that. I would do that, to protect my score, protect my social identity theft is huge
right now. It's huge right now.
Right. So that's why I run it. People have the misconception because they will go to a car dealership and the financier that's helping you will run it, and then they'll send it to Chase, and then they'll send it to Ally Financial, and then they'll send it to all these banks that finance cars. So guess what? You sat down and you ran it. Yeah, you had a list of hard credit inquiries from 5, 6, 7 different companies. Of course your score is going to drop. Wow. Those are hard inquiries and you ran it 6 times in one day. Whereas you running it for your mortgage, you ran it once, you got your numbers, you figured it out. Maybe you shopped 1 more time or 2 more times. It's good to get a second opinion. Sometimes it can really make a difference for you. Right. But the whole goal is that you're not just running it just to run it. And there's been times where, they've walked into like a major department store and they're having, the first thing they're taught to do as a clerk, they tell them, you can get this percentage off if you sign up for the credit card, and they will do that and finance something and have them change their FICO. So while you're in the transaction, just put a pause on those things. Once you close, Go to Living Spaces, go to IKEA, go to Macy's, go anywhere you want.
Go where you want.
Go to Target.
Awesome. Well, I think one more question that I'd like to ask you, because I know this question comes to me a lot when I'm speaking to potential buyers, is what is the difference between an FHA loan and a conventional loan?
Right. They're both really good loans, but everybody has, certain reasons why, right? So FHA is a great program because it lets you borrow quite a bit more than a normal conventional loan. The catch with it is that you do have to finance mortgage insurance in the loan.
Mm-hmm.
So you put your money down, but then you finance.
And what is mortgage insurance?
Mortgage insurance is an insurance imposed by the investors of the loan or by HUD or FHA that protects them if you default, as if the borrower defaults. So it's not really an insurance for you. It's an insurance for the people who are lending you the money because you're putting so little money down. So if you're only putting 3.5% down, after you take that 3.5%, they take that loan amount and they multiply it by 1.75% and they add that back into the loan and you're financing that.
Okay.
So that's on top of the loan. Okay. Then you have a monthly mortgage insurance. It's usually 0.85% of the loan amount, and that's what you're paying on a monthly basis. So depending on the purchase price or what you're financing, that could be a couple hundred, that could be $400 or $500, $600 per month of mortgage insurance. And with FHA, you cannot just have it fall off. If you want that mortgage insurance to go away, you have to refinance it off and have less than 80% owed to get that insurance off. On conventional, you don't have, if you put 20% down, you don't have mortgage insurance. But most people may not have 20% and they're putting less. So it will come with mortgage insurance, but it's only on a monthly basis. You don't finance it into the loan like FHA. And if you reach the 80% or less, it'll fall off.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to refinance it off. Most buyers are refinancing anywhere between 1 to 5 years pretty quickly, whether it's refinancing or selling that property or cashing out. They're doing that pretty quickly into the loan. So it doesn't really, it's important, but a lot of the times they're refinancing before that happens.
Awesome. Good. Thank you for clarifying. Well, since our time is pretty much almost up here, maybe if you can leave our audience with some tips of basically what they should be doing. I gave you all my secrets, Joanna. You gave us all their secrets, but kind of just line it out basically, and just say, if you want to buy a few things that you need to start working on before you speak to a loan officer, or more importantly, what are the documents that they should have ready when they're going to come meet with a loan officer like yourself? Yeah,
because getting a pre-qual or something, kind of just a conversation over the phone, we can talk about it and I can give you a good general of where you would land on a conversation. But if you wanted to get in there and look at your credit, I'm more than happy to run the credit for you and tell you how it looks, what you can do. The type of income or documentation that you need is just really your income, your W-2s for the last 2 years. Okay. That's if you're a W-2 employee, your pay stubs for 1 month, and then your bank statements for 2 months, or a retirement statement that usually covers about 3 months, right? So one retirement statement.
Right.
If you were to bring that, I can translate that into how that looks in a loan and what you would qualify for, how much is the payment, how much money you need out of pocket, everything you would need to know as a buyer to get out there and really feel like I know what I need to know to make an informed decision if I can afford this and if I want to buy a house.
Awesome.
So those are really it. If you're self-employed, we need your last 2 years federal tax returns. No pay stubs, right? Because they're self-employed and just their assets, your identification. That's really it.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Carol, for being here with us and for giving us all your inside secrets.
Right.
We really, really appreciate that. So if you can just let us know, where can people get a hold of you?
Yes.
Either on Instagram, your information.
Yes, on great. Instagram, you can find me as Carol the Closer. My website is carolthecloser.com. And yeah, you can find me there. I'm really good about responding to questions that have to do with loans or anything that I can point you in the right direction for. So definitely please reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure having you. And guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. It was an awesome one, and I have more to come.
Yay. Thank you, Joanna, for having me.
Have a great one.
Glutathione is a big word. It's It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radical, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient Nasset. Nasset increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.